You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast, where you'll learn step-by-step how to meet and seduce beautiful women, whether you're looking for one night of fun, a week-long fling, or a long-term relationship. I'm your host, Trip, and the episode starts now. Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. Today's episode is something that I was thinking about doing for a little while now, and then it just confirmed to me recently that it's absolutely something that I do have to do. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I'm assuming most people don't know this because I know there's a lot of new podcast listeners and there's close to 400 episodes on this thing. But a while back, I want to say maybe 3 years ago at this point, I did a 10-part series called The Attraction Arsenal. So what this was 10 different episodes that I released. Each one was about 5 to 10 minutes long. And what I did was I would go over everything you needed in terms of beginning to end, how to meet and attract women. And I thought, I really liked this series. It was very powerful because it gave you exact steps and all the best techniques and information I have in terms of the whole process of meeting a woman and going all the way to sex and then a relationship. So it's a 10-part series. And so what I decided to do was, because I saw the numbers with the downloads, which were extremely high, I thought, you know what? Maybe I should get this out there to people who are not necessarily going all the way back to, 3 years ago and seeing this, and making it more of a combined episode, right? So instead of doing 10 separate episodes, it's one long episode, which isn't too long, and it's right here for you. So what is it? Well, it's 10 episodes, starting from first one, what is attraction? Episode 2, where do you meet women? Episode 3, the first hello. Episode 4, continuing a conversation. Episode 5, the flirting formula. Episode 6, asking her out. Episode 7, texting her to meet. Episode 8, first date attraction. Episode 9, setting up the second date. And episode 10, getting a girlfriend. So everything from understanding what attraction is all the way to getting a girlfriend. And I really think that you're going to get a lot out of this. Like I said, the download numbers are pretty high. So I'm just assuming this is what people would want to listen to. And so I'm excited to be giving it to you here today in one full episode, which I think is fairly digestible since, again, it's only 5-minute episodes. So I want you to check this out. I want you to take notes. I'm hoping that it helps you. I know that maybe right now you're not necessarily going out there and meeting women. Maybe you're doing it in a different way, though, through online. And I know I don't talk about online in this, but there's other episodes I have on the podcast that I recently put out that do talk about online dating. But it's good to get this refresher. So I'm happy to do that for you today. I highly recommend that you go ahead and apply for coaching, because that has not stopped, even though people, I feel, think that at this point, there's nothing really to do because you can't go out there and you can't go on dates, but there's still so much to work on and plenty to be discussed. So if you feel that you need help in this area, whether we're talking about meeting women through online or eventually in person, go to coachedbytrip.com today and apply. Let me help you. Let me get you to the point where you're meeting women, and I can teach you about how to set up virtual dates if you're still in the point where you're listening to this and we have to be at home, or if you're listening to this later on afterwards, then great. We're going to help you go out there and meet women in person, just like we are going to discuss and you're going to hear on this episode. I'm going to be helping you implement this specifically in your life. That means that in your life, we're going to be going over exactly what it's going to take for you to meet more women, have an active dating life, and be able to attract really high quality, beautiful women inside and out. I have the strategy for you. I help guys every single day, basically. I'm on a phone call, at least most of the time. Sometimes I don't have phone calls on Sundays, but the rare emergency one I will take. But every day I'm helping guys just like you get to this point. So don't delay. Don't delay. Act now. Go to coachedbytrip.com and apply so we can get you the help that you need. Sound good? Great. Okay, here is Attraction Arsenal, episodes 1 through 10 combined, ready for you to listen. the first episode in the attraction arsenal is what is attraction? That's right. You need to understand a very basic idea of what attraction is and how it works before you can go on to the next parts, right? Because you can go ahead and skip to number 6 if you want, but I really highly recommend you start from the beginning and move forward because we will build a little bit on each one. And also, like I said, in this first episode, you need to understand what attraction is, okay? So what is attraction? Well, attraction is basically an emotion. It's that feeling you get when you say, wow, I really like that person. I feel this pull towards them. I want to be with them. I want to be intimate with them. And I want to spend time with this person. Okay. But how does that happen? How is that happening on this kind of like evolutionary level? Well, you know how it's happening for you, right? You see a girl, she's pretty. That's pretty much game over at that point. And then after that, you do obviously have to figure out if she's a quality girlfriend. But in the very beginning, I'm talking about just beginning attraction stuff. It doesn't take much for a guy going over there and talking to the girl that you are really physically attracted to. Then, of course, after that, talking to her and figuring out if this is someone you want to spend time with. But I know the beginning part is that kind of looks. For a girl, it's way different, right? It's not all about looks. I'd say maybe it's like 10 to 20% looks and 80% your personality. So this whole entire series is going to help you with that. And of course, my Hooked program, GetHerHooked.com, also helps you with that and building out your personality. But you have to know that it's your personality and it's the way you behave that really makes the most difference. Okay, it makes the most difference in terms of attracting a girl. She needs to be able to understand who you are as a person, and that is what triggers attraction. So attraction for her is something that takes a little bit of time. So that means that you need to go over and start talking to a girl, and I'll teach you how to do that in this series, but you need to go over and start talking to her in order to give the time for her to understand who you are and give her the time to show how you behave and what your personality is like in order for her to get attracted to you. Again, it's more instant for guys, but for a girl, it takes a little bit of time. Not that much time. It doesn't take like weeks on end or even hours on end. Really, it's just about the initial interaction and then finally getting her on a date and then continuing from there. Okay. So attraction is all about the way you behave and display your personality. So that means that when you go over there, it's about how you're talking to her, how your body language is. It's all about the way you're able to connect with her on an emotional level. It's the words that are coming out of your mouth, but more so, it's even the way that you act around her. And this is like, well, how do I do this? Where does this all occur? And I don't understand. Don't worry. This whole series is about that. But I needed to start off episode number 1 to get you to understand that attraction happens on the emotional level, not the logical level. Okay, she doesn't see a guy and say, oh, he looks like this, therefore I like him. No, you might be thinking that a little bit more. Oh, she looks like this, therefore I'm initially attracted to her. But for a girl, you need to give her the opportunity to meet you, to talk to you, to be in front of you. Okay, so that is the key here. Now, in this series, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the cold approach. Okay, so we'll go over that in the next episode in terms of the difference between cold approaching and online dating and app dating and things like that. But just know that this series is more geared towards the cold approach because I believe in that more because in the long run, that's going to be better for you. Okay, it's basically like saying, okay, you know what, if you want to just do online dating, that's good, that's all right. But that's like eating sweets and sugar. Like, okay, it gets you full, it gets the job done, but it's not the best way in order for you to be healthy and eat the right foods to live longer. But, when it comes to cold approaching, I believe that that is one of the best ways to get the skill of being in front of a girl. Why? Because you eventually have to be in front of her. So the cold approach is a little bit harder, but it's going to be healthier for you in the long run. Okay, we're back in the Attraction Arsenal, episode 2 of 10. Hopefully you've listened to episode 1 and you're not just bouncing around. So this is my quick note to you. Do not bounce around, okay? You're going to get good information on all of these, but I highly recommend you start from the beginning and work your way till the end. And again, this whole process is probably going to be anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. I don't know. I'm just recording this right now, episode number 2. So I don't know how long they're all going to be, but I'm trying to stay under 5 minutes to give you the quick, hard-hitting techniques and tools. That's right, your arsenal for attracting women and getting to the relationship point, okay? And now, let's talk about where do you meet women? That's right. Where do you meet women? Well, there's many options, right? There's walking up to a girl in the grocery store. They're signing up for Tinder or Bumble or a dating app. They're signing up for Match.com or eHarmony or OkCupid. There's going to singles events. There's going to speed dating. There's going to networking events. There's going to your normal, year-to-year events like a wedding or some sort of event that's going on in your city or wherever is going on. That's going to be some sort of event or public gathering, right? Those are pretty much the most popular ways of meeting women. Okay, so that's the answer to the question of the title of the episode, where do you meet women? But how do you break it down? What's most important? Well, I told you in episode number 1 that cold approaching, I believe, should be a majority of your efforts in terms of meeting women. Why? Because you're building the skill of getting her in person, attracting her, and that is where attraction happens. It happens in the face-to-face level. We were not born to be attracting people over text messages and digital formats. That's not where attraction occurs. Okay, you can maybe maintain attraction or get her interested and intrigued, but you can't really get her understanding how your personality is, and you can't get her to understand how you behave. She can't feel your confidence and your courage and your fearlessness and be able to really feel your energy, so to speak, over text messages or over apps and online. It's better in person. So apps and online, they're great. Use them. Use everything in your arsenal. I say this in a lot of older podcasts that you should be using online and app dating, but I would hope that at least 60% of all of your efforts to meet women should be the cold approach, meeting a woman in person. So here's my hard-hitting technique for that. Okay, well, first of all, I broke it down for you. 60% should be meeting women in person, and then the rest is like 40% would be maybe 20% of that 40% is apps and online dating, and the other 20%, going to some networking events and maybe somewhere in there, making sure that you're going to events around town or things that you see, going to Facebook, meetup.com, places to really find cool events and going to those. So that is your breakdown right there. And then, of course, I know a lot of those are like, well, Trip, I can do cold approach at those events, networking events. Yes, absolutely. I think the 60% should really be a function of going out to bars, clubs, sidewalks, coffee shops during the day, kind of those places where people gather and going out and doing that. Why? Because you don't want to just rely on events, because then you no longer have control of the situation. It's like, well, can't go out tonight. There's no events going on. But no, you can. You can go out anytime you want and leave your house to be able to meet women. So make sure you do that. And that should be 60% of your time. So here's my biggest tip for you in terms of meeting women, okay, is that you need to be putting this on a schedule. Anyone who's ever been successful at anything has made deadlines and schedules and has been very proactive and productive in whatever skill they're trying to build. So just being like, okay, I'll try to go out more. That's probably not going to do it, right? We need to put a schedule in. It's like if you wanted to work out, are you saying, in order to be successful, are you saying like, oh, I'll just try to work out more? No, you're saying, hey, New Year's, I'm going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? That's what you do. You put a schedule in. Same thing here. So I want you to take your time right now. This is a 1-minute exercise. Look at your calendar and say, when can I fit in about 3 hours this week to put into meeting women, right? And if we're breaking it down with 60% being cold approach, I mean, 2 of those hours are going out and making sure you're meeting women in person. So maybe you go out once for an hour at night on a weekday or a weekend, and then going out for an hour during the day, somewhere populated, a mall, sidewalk, coffee shop where you can talk to girls there, and then spend another hour, putting some effort into messaging girls on the apps and online dating, right? So there you go. That's a sample breakdown, though. You can do whatever you want. If you really want to push it, I mean, you could be going out multiple hours. You can go an hour every single night. Hey, I did that for almost a year straight. Every day I was doing a little bit of something. That's how I got to the point now where I'm being able to coach you. So that's my big tip for episode number 2 in the attraction arsenal, making a schedule, putting it out there, and making time to meet women. What works for you? I know that you can find a time in there to be able to do it. Okay, we're talking about the first hello. I know that a lot of guys probably skip to this one. I know a lot of guys want to know kind of how to open up conversations, pickup lines, things like that. So please, if you're getting here for the first time and you're on the first episode here, go back to 1 and 2. They're not that long. We're building here and it's only for your benefit, right? I don't see any benefit from it. It's for you. I'm trying to help you out. Okay, so get to those episodes. These are short ones. All right, the first hello. I'm going to give you my absolute number 1 very favorite hello line. Okay. So my first hello line is I'm going to give you a couple actually, because I know they're different depending on what environment you're in. So again, we're talking more about cold approach here. I'm not going to be really focusing on online dating. So We're going to be talking about the first hello. Let's talk about when you meet a girl during the day. My favorite line to open a conversation is going up to her and saying, do you know where the nearest coffee shop is that's not Starbucks? Okay. Do you know where the nearest coffee shop is that's not Starbucks? I used to have one that was, do you know where the nearest Starbucks is? But now it's kind of evolved into this other one because it opens up a bigger conversation. It's easier. It's like, hey, do you like coffee? What kind of coffee do you drink? Yeah, isn't it great to get something that's different than Starbucks? Oh, you love Starbucks? You don't like other types of coffees? Oh, how could you like that? You could tease her on that, right? There's just so many different ways this conversation can go. It's such a good opener. Try it out. That is the best way to open a conversation up during the day, all right? What is a good place to go to, a good coffee shop to go to that is not Starbucks? Okay, there you go. Now I'm going to give you one that is a good opening line for the bars, the clubs, the more social settings, parties, things like that. So if you're at a bar, you're at a club, you see a girl, you want to go up and talk to her, maybe she's in a group of girls, literally all you got to do is go up to her and say this. I don't know if I'm going to get a drink tonight, but if you were me, what's the best drink to get here? That's it. It's a great line to use. Try that on any girl or group of girls that are in a social environment, okay? Just say something like that because that's going to be able to lend itself to more conversation. And then you can eventually introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm Trip. What's going on? Okay, cool. Okay, what kind of drink is that? Oh, what's your favorite drink? Well, what's the coolest drink you ever had? What are the bars you go to? And then you use that to continue conversation, which I'll be going over in episode number 4. That's the next episode. But for now, the first hello. Now, I'm going to give a quick tip for you guys who have approach anxiety. I know that goes along with the first hello. A lot of guys are going to be like, well, Trip, I can't do that because I'm freaked out to talk to girls and I don't know how to do it. Okay, well, here we go. The first step is something that I already gave you, being armed with an opener. I gave you an opener to use, something really easy. So all you got to do is memorize that and approach as many girls as you can with that line. Here's the beauty of it. You don't need to stay in conversation for that long. If it freaks you out, just say the line and move on. If it freaks you out to do it to a pretty girl, ask a guy, ask anyone on the street, ask a homeless person, ask a waitress. Just get that line out and practice it on as many people as you can to just practice starting conversation. Okay, that's what we want. And that is going to be the biggest step in overcoming approach anxiety. It's competence, being competent and being able to go up to people and say that line. How you're going to do it, it's not going to be from listening to this podcast. It's going to be from using the podcast as information and taking it out to the streets, to the bars, to the clubs, wherever you are to meet women. So practice those lines over and over and try to deliver it as many times as you can. And you're going to find that you're going to desensitize yourself to this whole process. Episode number 4 is all about continuing a conversation. Ooh, this is a good one. I know this is going to be a very popular one because guys ask me all the time, how do I continue a conversation? How do I talk to girls? Which is why I titled my podcast, How to Talk to Girls. Isn't that convenient? Right? So I know this episode's going to be huge. Don't forget to go into the other episodes and make sure you're listening to all these because we're building and building and building upon all this, right? So you need to know the first hello, which is episode number 3, before you get to episode number 4, which is continuing a conversation. Wow, I'm talking very fast here. It's because I have a lot of information to be able to give you in a short period of time. And I want to give these quick tips to you. Okay, continuing a conversation. What is my absolute best advice for continuing a conversation? Okay, here's what we're going to do. And I teach this in my Hooked program, along with some other cool techniques in order to continue conversation. So this is just one of my best ones, but there is more in the Hooked program, which you can check out at getherhooked.com. Okay, so what you want to be able to do to continue a conversation is this. When you're talking to a girl, when you give her the first hello and you deliver those lines, you're probably thinking, what were those lines? I'm not going to tell you in this episode because this episode's not about that. Go back to episode number 3, the first hello, okay? And then when you deliver those first lines, listen to her, actively listen, really take the time to listen to her because she is the key to you being able to continue the conversation. Not always. Sometimes girls are not very responsive, but most of the time, if the opener that you're delivering, which should works well, when you're delivering it, because you're talking to the girl, delivering the line in front of her, she hears it, she responds to you, you're going to listen to her, you're going to be able to hear words to extract. They call this word extraction exercise. Listen to what she's saying. Okay, so if you deliver the line, well, I guess we'll just give it to you right now. The line is during the day line. There's other openers that you can check out at episode number 3. But for during the day or out at, some sort of public setting and say, hey, where's the nearest coffee shop that's not Starbucks? And she says, oh,
you know what? I don't really know. I only go to Starbucks. Starbucks is still now your key word. So you say, Starbucks. Damn, really? I mean, haven't you, ventured out and tried something new? I mean, is that all you drink? And then she'll say, yeah, Starbucks is like my favorite drink. I've been drinking it for so many years. Now, it's getting a little more difficult. What are your words here? Well, you have the words to extract are Starbucks and years. So then you can use the word years and be like, oh my God, for years? Listen, you should have been drinking Starbucks for only days, because let me tell you something, there's better coffee shops out there. And then she might say, well, what coffee shops do you know? And you say, oh, well, I know of this one, but that's why I'm asking you, because I'm always looking for new recommendations. And, you go on Yelp or you go on other places and it's hard to trust those. So I like to just ask people so I know for sure that they've been to somewhere good and I love recommendations. So you see here, this is just an example of you being able to continue the conversation. It's about listening to the words that she's saying, right? So let's do this again. I'll give you some more examples. Let's say you go up to her and you say, hey, where's the nearest coffee shop that's not a Starbucks? I'm looking for some different kind of coffee. And then she does mention a place. And then you can say, oh, okay, so now the place is the key word. You can say, oh, that place. Oh, cool. Have you been there before? Okay, you've been there. Okay, how many times have you been there? Oh, you go there like once a week? Cool. And then you can say, what's your favorite coffee to get there? And then she says her certain coffee. And then you can go on and on about that coffee. And maybe you don't drink coffee. It might be like, Trip, I don't even drink coffee. How am I supposed to do this? Well, it's easy. Just say that you're trying to get into coffee. It's something you want to learn. You listen to a podcast and you hear that coffee is really good and you want to get into it. I know that right now I'm talking so fast, it sounds like I'm pouring cups of coffee down my throat, but you'd be surprised that I actually don't drink coffee. I don't drink any coffee at all. Sometimes tea. But that's about it. But either way, extract the words, listen to her, extract the words, and then you can move on to continuing the conversation. Okay? Sound easy enough? I hope it is. Okay? It's not going to be always easy. Sometimes she won't give you lots to work with, but just do your best and see where you can continue conversation from there. But make sure you're listening to her and extracting the word. Today's episode is called The Flirting Formula, because I'm going to give you a little flirting formula that you can use. And it's going to be really fun and easy to implement as you're continuing a conversation. So if you fast forwarded to this one and you decided not to listen to any of the episodes from 1 through 4, big mistake. Go back, listen to the rest of them, because this is all connected to the other one. This is a series. This is like the Netflix series where, you would just skip to episode number 5. No, you start from the beginning. And this is even more important because we're learning something here. So we got to build upon this, right? In order to learn calculus, I first got to teach you addition. Does that make sense? I hope so. All right. Attraction Arsenal, episode number 5. We're talking about the flirting formula. And here we go. So the flirting formula is this: tease, touch, take control. Okay? Tease, touch, take control. In no specific order. These are different ways of flirting with the girl. Okay? Touching, teasing, and taking control. This is the way that you're going to be able to show her that you're interested and show her that you're flirting, because you want her to know that you're flirting and you also want to be able to spark attraction, okay? And that is going to come from teasing, touching, and taking control. Are these the only ways to flirt with the girl? Are these the only ways to attract a girl? No, I got way more of these and more awesome stuff that you can do, more techniques at GetHerHooked.com, my hook program, teaching you how to get beautiful girls hooked on you, no matter how much money you have, no matter how you look, and no matter what your status is in society. Okay. So let's go back into this formula and teach you these techniques for right now. Teasing. Teasing is basically a way of just lightly, poking fun at her or poking fun at a situation. This is not the same thing as necessarily negging. Negging is like putting her down. At least that's what people think. This is more of just lightly teasing her like she's your little sister. Okay. Calling her a dork, disagreeing with her, things like that. So make sure that you can tease her a little bit, come up with cute little pet names, call her shorty if she's kind of short, right? These little teasing moments that you can have with a girl when you're talking to her, right? Teasing her a little bit. And then the next one, in no specific order, is touching, right? Make sure that you break the touch barrier, not inappropriate touching. We're not going to do any kind of sexual touching in the beginning, right? This is when you first meet her. So this is more about, breaking the touch barrier by maybe even just giving her a handshake when you first meet her and introduce yourself, giving her a high five, just one in the interaction. I know that sounds lame, like giving a girl a high five. Like, what are we, children? Actually, doing things that are kind of childish are fun in a way of being flirty. High fives, teasing, they actually work better than you think. Okay, so she says something cool, give her a high five. Don't do it too much because that's weird. Maybe do it like once maybe twice. Touch her on her arm when she says something interesting. Lean closer to her and, touch her lower back when you're trying to whisper something to her because the bar or club is too loud. Find a way to just break the touch barrier with these innocent touching moves. Next is take control. Taking control is a form of flirting because it's a form of dominance. Dominance is something that I talk about extensively in my Hooked program, again, at getherhooked.com. Dominance is about taking the lead, taking control, and interact, not controlling her, but taking control of the interaction. That means that you're going to be the one who's leading the interaction from beginning to end. She's not going to do it for you. She's not going to lead it. She's not going to ask you out. She's not going to be touching you in the beginning. Maybe she will if you're lucky. She's not going to be flirting with you at first, maybe if you're lucky, but you need to be the one doing it. So you need to be taking control, leading the interaction and making sure that you're the one who starts it. You're the one who flirts. You're the one who moves it all the way to touching, to kissing, to asking her out. Okay. It is a form of flirting. And this is part of the formula because a lot of guys forget to do this and they don't pull the trigger, don't ask her out, and it doesn't happen. Asking her out, episode number 6 in the series. So what do you do? When do you ask her out? What are you supposed to say to ask her out? What's all the details behind that? Well, here's the deal. Okay. I'd say just to give you an idea of time-based, because I know a lot of guys are like, when should I do it? Well, the more and more you talk to girls in practice, you're just going to know. You're just going to get a feeling. And that might sound crazy to you. Like, how am I just going to know? Like, how is it magic? Am I just going to know when to do it? You're going to know when to do it because it's going to be intuitive because you've done it a lot of times in the past. But for guys who are like, Trip, I don't talk to girls ever. So I kind of need like a timeline. And when can I do it? Well, here we go. If you're talking to a girl in a social setting, bars, clubs, parties, events, things like that, usually stuff that happens at the nighttime, but any kind of social event, you probably want to ask for her number somewhere around 20 to 30 to 40 minutes in. I know that sounds like a long time. And you might be thinking like, wow, like how am I going to have a conversation for that long? Listen, you can ask her for a number within 10 minutes. You can do it within 5 minutes and it can still work out. Maybe she has to go somewhere. Okay, ask her for a number. Don't say like, well, she left the conversation. We only talked for 5 minutes. I shouldn't get her number. No, I mean, at the end of the day, get her number, or try to continue hanging out with her. Okay. Don't just, let her go. Continue trying to hang out with her the rest of the night. You don't want to just end up with a phone number necessarily. You want to still be able to move her from location and continue to spend time with her. But if you have to get a number, when do you do that? Do that, again, like I said, within 15 to like 40 minutes. Why that long? Because that's at the point where you've had enough time to display your personality and get her attracted to you. Okay. Now, again, it's not necessarily about the phone number. It's not about just getting the phone number because sometimes phone numbers don't pan out. That's why you want to see if you can continue to hang out with her. Can you guys hang out at your place afterwards? Can you guys end up going to get a drink somewhere else, going to a new bar, going to an after party? So ideally, you get her logistical information, find out what she's doing later on, where she's going, and continue hanging out with her. But if that can't happen, second resort, get her phone number. When you do that, again, you're doing all this within about 15 to 40 minutes because that allows enough time. Okay. Now, it's a little bit different during what I like to call your more casual situations. Casual situations are like grocery stores, coffee shops, during the day, usually somewhere where you're not at a party. It's kind of like a random approach at a mall, something like that. That you only need like actually 15 minutes. Okay. Why? Well, people usually have to go somewhere, okay? But after 15 minutes, I want you to go for an instant date. So you're going to invite her out. You're going to try to get her to go somewhere with you, get some coffee, come back to your place, whatever it is. Okay, you guys continue to hang out. If that doesn't work out, second option, get her phone number. Why only 15 minutes? Well, what I've learned is that you really create a quicker connection for 15 long minutes in person at like a grocery store, somewhere where it's not, necessarily that social, because this is really a nice one-on-one, very more connected atmosphere. When people are social at a party, club, whatever, it's like you're kind of expected to talk to people for long, periods of time without necessarily it being anything that's special. That's why sometimes it takes a lot longer to talk to a girl and connect with her at a party, because then it's like, whoa, we've been talking for a long time. Like, this is something serious. But usually in a casual environment, only about 15 minutes. Now, again, this doesn't mean, okay, 15 minutes on the dot, this is the point, the exact point Trip told me, this is when I got to continue to hang out with her or get her number. No, again, think more intuitively, like, how's it going? Like, have you guys been talking? It's been a really intense conversation. Okay, great. You can, move to the next step. If not, maybe you talk a little bit longer. How you're going to learn this, it's going to be by practice. It's going to be by reference experience, going out and getting the references from your actual experience of going and talking to girls. So this episode's called Texting Her to Meet. Hopefully you didn't skip to this. I know a lot of you guys like texting, so make sure you listen to all of them. All right, texting. What's texting all about? Maybe you've heard me talk about texting on my YouTube channel. Maybe you even have the Hook program and you listen to the bonus called Text Shark. That's right, I have a whole bonus. It's over an hour long teaching you exactly what to do in every little situation and how to text girls once you get her number. But I'm going to give you some quick tips from that right now. First, texting is all about getting her to meet up. Do not over-text. Do not sit there talking and texting for a long time. Don't even call her a bunch and get her on the phone a lot. No, you need to get in person with her. You need to recreate the moment that you guys had when you first met because that's where attraction happens, okay? It's not where it ends. Where it ends is over texting. So you need to make sure texting is only used to get her to meet up. So remember that. That is your kind of like guideline here in terms of texting, is knowing that, okay, have I used texting to meet her, meet up with her? Because maybe you didn't end up hanging out with her later on. Or maybe you did, but you're ready to see her again. But you're going to have to text her to meet up, okay? Here is a great text message that you can use. Hey, great meeting you last night. What did you end up doing this morning? Or how was the rest of your night? And then put dash your name. It's a great way to get conversation started. You might be thinking, Trip, that's lame. That's too easy. That's boring. Da-da-da-da. Listen, you don't need to be fancy and special over text message. You just need to get her to respond. And if a girl likes you and she sees that boring text message, I put in air quotes, boring text message, she's not going to think that's boring. She's going to love it because she heard from the guy that she's attracted to, and that's all she needs. So she's going to want to respond and meet up with you. If she doesn't respond, it's not because the text message was boring. It's because you never ended up initiating attraction and getting her invested in the first place. If you don't know how to do that, well, you probably didn't listen to the other 6 episodes here on the Attraction Arsenal, or you don't have my Hooked program that teaches you how to trigger attraction and get girls hooked on you. You can learn about that at getherhooked.com. Either way, texting is all about getting her to meet up. So send that text message. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now, you can send that as a first text message or send whatever you want, in the beginning, but eventually, within the first couple text messages, you need to ask her out on a date. So ask her. And here's a great one to use. I actually just put this in a recent YouTube video because it's from one of my free programs called the 7 Deadly Text Messages That You Can't Resist. And I'll put that link in the episode notes so you can get that as well alongside Hooked. But basically what I'm telling you here is you can ask her out on a date and you can do it in a cute way by saying, hey, this week, meatballs and mini golf, sushi and bowling, or whatever it is. Pick a food, pick an activity. And it's funny because try to pick one that doesn't really go together. Like why meatballs and mini golf? Why sushi and bowling? Why? I mean, you can see a lame version of this is like saying like ice cream and take a walk. It's like, that's kind of typical, right? It's like, that seems like the typical cliche date. It's like, let's get ice cream and take a walk around the park. Like, nah, do something a little bit more unique, Maybe taking a walk and getting cotton candy. I don't know, something random. The more random, it's more intriguing, the better, it's more spontaneous. So use that in order to text her to be able to meet up with her. Okay, so that's the whole thing here. It's texting her to meet up. And I can't stress it enough. I really can't. That's what we're doing here. No fancy text messages, nothing crazy. Use that text message the next time you want to meet up with a girl. Trip Kramer here from the How to Talk to Girls podcast on the Attraction Arsenal mini-series, episode number 8, where we're talking about first date attraction. That's right. So we've texted her. We've gotten her to agree to meet up. You've picked a great spot, maybe for a drink, maybe for some dinner and an activity. Whatever it is, you got her to meet up with you. Let me tell you something. This is easy peasy here, okay? Pretty easy peasy. Now, I'll say this much. It's not as easy if this first date is coming from an online dating site or an app because she doesn't know you yet. That's why I love Cold Approach, because she can already get to know you way more and she's already much more attracted and invested in you for this first date. Otherwise, this first date is just your first initial interaction and meeting her for the first time. So there's a lot more pressure and more work to do, so to speak, if you're meeting her from an app or online dating. So let's just assume at this point that you have met her in person more than half the work is done. We call this don't mess up. We call this the don't mess up game because that's all you need to do is just don't mess up. How do you mess up? Just being completely boring, saying things that are maybe just really creepy or weird. And I think that that's pretty intuitive. Hopefully, you're not saying anything that's like overly sexualized because that's just going to make her feel very strange. Save those things for the bedroom or when you're finally at that point. Being boring is talking about the boring stuff. What do you do for a living? And oh, that's cool. And what do you like to do with your friends? And what are your hobbies? That stuff is fine, but really let's get some good conversation going and something more interesting. Let's talk about something that is going to be just a little bit more hard hitting. What can we talk about? Well, there's a lot of different things that you can do. Here's a great tool for you. Go to Google, type in the 36 questions that make a girl fall in love with you. Pick 3 of your favorites and boom, say that on a date. That's the best way to get a conversation going and making it more interesting. Now, that's not just it. It's not just about conversation, but the first date needs to move along. You need to lead the interaction. So hopefully you can lead the interaction and get more physical with her. Hopefully this can at the very least, end up in a kiss. And that's what we want, right? So make sure that when you are getting her on a first date, that it's not just about you guys sitting and eating and, exchanging some sort of resume here. It's not what it's necessarily about, right? So make sure that after the date, you guys are getting physically close, go for the kiss, and if it leads to more, great, it leads to more. So make sure that that is where it's going to, because the first date can't just be some boring resume exchange. All right. That's first date attraction right there. Check out the 36 questions. Make sure that you're escalating and moving the interaction forward because she's not a friend. Okay. A friend just sit down and get coffee and they hug goodbye and call it a day. No. Now, again, got to be very clear here. Everything is with consent. So, you're only moving the interaction forward physically, if she's comfortable. Okay. We're not doing if she's uncomfortable. We're not doing anything that is going to make her feel uncomfortable. So make sure that you're moving forward appropriately, meaning that, go for the kiss and, go for being more physical. But if she stops you, then she stops you. And then that's that. Okay. Very simple, very easy first date attraction. For more great tips on how to nail it on the first date, I go through the entire process at my Get Her Hooked program, getherhooked.com. Watch the video on there, read that page, learn about how to get her hooked and how you can get access to the program. And then once you do, go to the first date module where you'll learn all about how to kill it on first dates. Setting up the second date or the second meeting, right? So everything went well up until this point. You ended up getting her out and had a great first date. Maybe it ended up in a kiss, maybe more. Things went well, or maybe you're not sure if it went well and you had an okay time and it didn't end up in any sort of physical interaction, or she didn't say anything that made you believe that she wants to see you again. Either way, I'm going to show you how to set up the second date, okay? So let's talk about that. The second date is going to be you setting this up again via text or through calling. I would say it's up to you here. Do you text? Do you call? Your call, no pun intended. So whatever you want to do here. If you think that you guys had such a great time and you guys ended up maybe sleeping together or maybe something happened where you had a really intense connection, I would maybe go for a call. But, if you guys just kind of had an okay date and you're not really sure, maybe set it up through a text just so, you're not being too overbearing here, okay? So let's set up this date. How are you going to do it? Well, whether or not you get her on the phone or you get her on a text, don't go for the date right away. So I know before I said texting is all about making sure that you get the date. And that's what texting is going to be about here too. But, just ask her what's going on. Ask her how her day is. But we're not going to do it in that lame way, okay? I'm just giving you the context. Like that's kind of the context of it. Like we're going to ask her how her day is and start a conversation. But it's not going to be specifically that. Basically, we're just having little mini conversation before you go for the next time to see her. Now, before we get into that, when do you want to see her? When do you set up the next meeting? I would say if you're trying to transition this into a girlfriend situation, then what you want to do is maybe see her in like 3 to 5 days, okay? 3 to 5 days. Why that long? Well, give a little bit of time for you guys to miss each other. You don't want to spend too much time too fast because that can be a little too much, okay? Too much. Why? Because you still want to live your life. You don't want to just put all of your eggs in one basket and see this girl over and over and over again. You still want to live your life and don't get obsessed too quickly because that can be very dangerous. Okay, so 3 to 5 days. So how are you going to set up the context here of like, how's your day? What's going on is you're not going to ask her how her day is. You're going to say what you're up to, okay? Whether it's something very interesting or very boring, you're just going to be able to say it in a way that makes it more interesting. So maybe you're doing something cool. Tell her what you're doing. Send her a little picture. If you're doing something completely boring, make it sound exciting by making it a joke. If you're at the office all day, just say, hey, I'm raging at the office right now. We're drinking, we're going crazy, and I'm getting so much work done, right? Obviously as a joke, but something exciting, something interesting to start her day. It doesn't have to be something like that. It could be anything else that you find interesting. Don't just take it from me, get creative here. Basically, instead of asking her, you're telling her what's going on with you, and then you wait for a response. You guys have just a bit of dialogue back and forth, not too much texting. You don't want to set up the frame where you guys are texting so much with each other. Then you have this texting relationship, right? Everything should happen in person because that's where the fun is and that's where the attraction continues to get built. So then after that, finally, you guys have been texting for a little bit. You then ask her out to another date. Whatever you want to do. You want to do dinner, you want to do some sort of activity, some sort of event, something going on. Either way, something to get you in front of her again. What I would recommend you don't do a movie, don't do a concert, don't do anything where you guys can't connect with each other. Save that for dates way down the line when you guys have already gotten to know each other. Now you're just spending time with each other, doing something fun, okay? Like something, again, specifically like you can't talk during. But for now, set up something where you guys can actually talk. Let's finish off the series talking about getting a girlfriend. How does this all work? Well, basically, this is now going to be you guys spending more time together. I would say maybe once or twice per week, usually at a minimum. When you're starting a dating relationship, you're seeing her, maybe it tends to be a little bit farther out. Maybe it's like a couple times every 2 weeks. And maybe you guys end up seeing each other more often, like 3 times a week. Like I said in the last episode, try to leave some space in between seeing each other. I don't want your whole life being around her because it gets dangerous. If your whole life becomes her and you get so obsessed with her in this relationship, well, it causes you to not have a life anymore, not have a full, well-rounded lifestyle. And you become so obsessed with her that you forget about you. And that can cause 2 things to go wrong. One, you end up not keeping her attracted because you become so obsessed. She sees that you are just obsessed with her and you no longer have your own thing going on for you. Or 2, you end up so obsessed with her and what ends up happening is she breaks your heart and you're in a very terrible situation because you invest so much emotional well-being into her and it caused a big heartbreak that's going to cause you to have a lot of trouble getting back on the ground and dating again. So we want to prevent that, all right? So we want to see her just a few times per week and keep your own life going. And it's really easy at this point, have fun things you guys do together. Have a lot of things that you guys can do together that are different. Maybe you guys start working out together. You start, doing some hobbies together, not everything, but, you guys are spending more time together in different ways. Maybe you end up meeting her friends, your friends, but just make sure that you guys are doing different things. Don't just go out to dinner, 10 dates in a row. Again, this is not saying 10 dates like 10 nights in a row. I already told you not to do that. But even, 10 dates in a row, you guys go on, a bunch of dates in 1 month. It's all the same thing. It gets boring. Do different things. Learn about her in different ways. And more importantly, here's the most important thing, is you need to have a set of deal breakers for yourself. What are the 3 most important things that you want in a girlfriend? Make sure you're trying to discover those 3 things as you're dating. What is it? What's most important to you? Is it physical connection? Is that something that's the most important to you? I mean, it should be anyways. That's usually one of the defaults for a successful relationship. But do you want to be super, super, super attracted to your girlfriend? Does she have to be the hottest thing in the world? Is that something that's important to you? Is it important that you guys have a lot in common in terms of your interests? Is it important to you that she wants kids and wants a family? Is it important to you that she's a girl that's really into her work? Maybe you want a girl that's not into her work. What is it? What are the qualities you want or seek in a girl? What are they? Write them down. Pick the top 3 and make sure that you're seeking those things out and learning about those things as you continue dating her. Don't just hang out with her and have a good time. Really work at this. Put the effort in. Find out if this girl's compatible for you. And that is how you're going to be able to get a girlfriend and a successful one at that. And then just to get a girlfriend, you guys end up spending time together and you like her and it's all working out. You simply say this one line. Hey, I love spending time with you. I really like it. And I don't want to spend time with anyone else right now. So I want to know where you're at, right? I want to know where you're at. That's it. Say that line and that's it. But make sure that you spend at least a couple months with her, dating her, getting to know her, crossing off the things that are the deal breakers and making sure that this girl is a girl that you want to spend more time with and actually get into a relationship with. And also defining what the relationship is, right? There's different ways to have a relationship. There's multiple ways to have a relationship. So what is it that you want? What kind of type of relationship you want? You can create it, but it's all about making sure you communicate that to her before you guys get more serious or move the relationship forward.